Before season 4 launched, I asked you to send me your real problems that you're facing at work. Not the ones that you'd necessarily bring up in a one-on-one or go to HR with, but ones that are definitely draining your energy. Today, I'm answering 2 of those questions. One is about being trusted to execute, but never being involved in strategy or major decision making. But by the time the plan lands on your desk, you can see what's missing, but it's too late. The other question is what to do when someone at work is talking behind your back. We're going to solve both problems, and this is part 2 of our work problem series. Let's finish what we started. Welcome to In Confidence, where what we share in confidence helps us grow in confidence. This is part 2 of our work problem series, and today we're going to tackle in your real write-in questions out loud and answer them finally. So if you missed part 1 on this past Tuesday, go back and listen to it. We talked about being excluded from information you need to do your job and how to navigate a power struggle at work, whether you're in it or just caught in the middle of it. Today, we're covering 2 more of your questions. And if Tuesday was about the world around you, today is about the work you do on yourself. So how do you get seen the way you actually are in terms of your strengths? What you do when a relationship at work gets complicated in a way that you can't walk away from it. So let's get to the first question today. I'm going to read it out loud to you. I feel like I'm trusted to execute, but never brought in on strategy. I'm a great strategist, and it's actually my primary strength when taking personality tests. It's very frustrating to me because I receive a fully baked plan and I see all the deficiencies, but it's too late to adjust the direction. It makes me feel administrative when my role is leadership. First of all, I see you, and I want to start off by answering this question with a story, and I've actually watched this exact transformation with someone on my own team, my chief of staff, Claire, who is awesome. I would say maybe it's about 2.5 years ago, Claire started working freelance for me at GRAVITAS, and I brought her in to run our book tour. She didn't have any background in the industry that we work in. I knew she was capable. I always see potential in people. And in the beginning, I literally handed her tasks. She executed. And it was really for her at the beginning, learning what we were doing, getting her footing, delivering on what was asked of her. And then something shifted. And I think part of it is you want to work at a place where I think you feel the permission to grow. She started taking time outside of her day-to-day work to do additional research, to think about the bigger picture. And one of the things that I asked her to do was to run our social media marketing and help with the email marketing and the marketing calendar for the book. So she researched what was working for authors, other brands, and she identified a number of areas for us to grow. So for example, she was like, we need to do more reels and we need to do more carousels on Instagram. There are all these cool things. And frankly, I'm not a digitally native person. So it was very cool to have someone do the extra legwork. And she came to me not with a declaration, not with here's what we need to do or here's my plan, but a genuine curiosity. She shared with me what she'd been reading and exploring and why she'd been looking into it, and had ideas, frankly, on where we could change things or try new things or where there might be more potential in our business. She didn't frame it as a critique or a hard line in the sand. She said, I'd love to contribute, and I've been thinking about a few things. Can I share them with you? That actually changed everything. All of a sudden, from my point of view, she went from being someone who executed my vision and got through the to-do list and the task list, and she moved into someone I see today as a thought partner. I really love the discipline she applied to getting the work done, as well as her desire to grow. And I love that idea of growth because she became more valuable to me and to our team when I saw her doing that extra layer of thinking or bringing me in on how she was thinking about something. She chose to show me a different version of what she was capable of. And that's exactly what I want you to do if you're stuck in this situation. Here's the reframe. You're no longer trying to prove you can do the work. You're trying to prove you can shape the work. And so execution up until now has earned you trust. And I think that's really important. If you're incredibly good at executing and getting things done, people rely on you. Now you have to move to a view of strategy requires visibility. And if people only see your output and they don't see the additional ways in which you got there, the way you think, the way you problem solve, your additional effort to think about the bigger picture, then you have to make it visible before anyone thinks to ask it, because you're reframing how people see you. So here's what this actually looks like. I want you to carve out time, and I know this requires effort, so of course it's going to require effort. Carve out time outside of your regular work schedule to document your strategic thinking, or to think about additional ways you might be able to contribute and be valuable to the team. What's working? What's missing? Where opportunities are? Write it down and make it real. I literally love that Claire, in the example I shared with you, came to me with, here's how we should rethink our social media strategy. Not as a declaration, but as a, can I share with you some things that I've learned in my research? If you have the chance to get it in before a plan is finalized, take it. Bring 2 to 3 ideas with the trade-offs already considered, and don't wait to be asked. But I also want to speak to the reality of a lot of you might still be getting the decisions already fully baked. Here's the plan dropped on your desk, and you might still see opportunities to contribute to it, or add additional context, or provide a course correction. So it's not the end of the conversation. If the plan's already fully baked, I want you to do the homework of going through the plan and asking questions and making some suggestions or bringing new ideas to it. When a fully formed plan arrives, you can always come back with something like this. I've been thinking about this. Can I share a few ideas, observations, questions, not to reopen the conversation or the plan, but because there might be a couple of places where I think we could strengthen our approach to how we execute it. Because if you're seen as execution oriented, you can say, I'm going to strengthen the way in which we get this done. You're not blowing up the plan. You're not trying to insert yourself or be intrusive. You're adding value to it. And that could actually be strategic thinking. Let me help you think, because I'm the one that has to execute the plan. Can I give you some thoughts on how I might course correct the way I execute it? And that's what strategic thinking actually is. It's showing your work. It's not just having the ideas, but introducing them, showing your work, getting people excited about the way you're thinking about things. You can also use your regular check-ins intentionally. Every time you have a check-in with your boss, you might be able to say, here are all the tasks I'm getting done. But you might add a few lines. Hey, I've been thinking about something bigger that I think affects how we approach something. Do you mind if I share it? I want to share with you an article that I just read. Send a pre-read, share a framework, offer an alternative path with your reasoning already laid out, and ask for feedback and be curious. Hey, what do you think of this if we tried that? Is there something that I don't know that you're all thinking about? Because this could be really interesting for us to pursue. Use the language of ownership, not here are my thoughts, but here's how I think we could approach this. Again, showing your thinking. Now, really important, it's about how you present this. I want you to lead with curiosity and not certainty. You're not telling anyone what to do, you're showing them how you think. And that's the difference between coming off as overstepping versus coming off as invaluable. I don't think there's ever one moment where Claire has walked in and said, we need to change direction. She's always said, hey, I've been exploring this, and here's what I found, and here's what I think is worth considering. Should we discuss it a bit? Let's go back and forth. Let's iterate on this. And that intellectual generosity is what gets you seen as a strategist. Here's the bottom line. If you only speak after decisions are made, you will always sound reactive. So strategy and strategic role playing is earned by showing how you think before anyone asks you to. So do the extra work, show it early, present with curiosity, and make the moves to be seen differently. And that, by the way, will take time. It's not going to happen right away. So make sure that you're thinking about this if you want to reposition how you're seen. Second question of the day. Oh, this one hurts me a little bit because it's happened to me in my personal life as well as my professional life. How do I deal with a coworker speaking behind my back? This is actually what I'm writing my whole next book on. I'm writing my whole next book on trust and betrayal. And so this one hits a little differently for me because It's not a process. It's not a project. It's human interaction. And when you feel your trust has been broken or violated, I think we all go into protection mode because betrayal hits harder than belonging. And so let's just be clear, when someone talks badly behind your back, you start questioning everything. You start to replay conversations, interactions. You wonder what else was said and to whom and for how long. I think it just creates a spiral effect, a setback spiral in your mind. So what I think is the instinct most people have is they explode and want to confront the person, or they talk badly about behind that person's back, or they just stay silent and paralyzed. And they go completely quiet and just avoid that person and just get very self-protective. And I don't want you to do any of those things. And here's why. Look, if this happens in your personal life, you have choice, you have agency. If something goes wrong or there's incongruent behaviors, you can essentially walk away and you can let it fade, and you can decide you don't want that person in your life, right? That's actually much easier in your personal, not easier, but you can do that in your personal life. When it happens at work, you might be stuck with that person. You might still have to see them on Monday morning for the all hands meeting. You still have to be CC'd on emails with them. You still have to be in meetings with them. You need things from them. They need things from you. I just think unresolved tension at work, that's just a really unhappy way to live. We spend most of our time at work than we do at home. And so why live in an unhappy situation? So when someone talks badly about behind your back, I think it compounds and it really affects your energy. And for me, I wear everything on my sleeve. So it's even hard if someone knows that they've wronged me, they kind of feel it. And I start to gradually try to phase them out, but it's hard to do when you're at work. So this is why you have to work through it, because people can feel tension and it's not for them, it's for you. So let's think about the reframe. Your reputation, how you're seen, how people talk about you, it's not built in one conversation or one person's opinion. It's built in patterns. And so one person speaking poorly about you, that narrative doesn't undo the track record of excellence and consistency you've already brought. So let's talk about the fact that one person's view of you, especially if it's poor, you want to understand it, frankly, and know that you're also doing a lot of good work outside of that. So you do have to address it, and avoiding tension doesn't rebuild trust or rebuild relationships. So it just increases the distance between two people. So here's what I want you to actually do. I want you to set up time with that person. I think you do have to do this and do it in a calm way. I think if you go back, we did an episode a few seasons ago around feedback. I think it's really important that we anchor it in facts and observations and impact on me, not assumptions. And I think it's important to start off with just the facts. I heard something that didn't feel aligned with how I thought we were working together. There was a piece of feedback that someone attributed to you that made its way back to me. And I'd love to talk about it because it felt a bit hurtful. It felt like different than the way I perceived our working relationship to be. And I'd love to discuss it so it doesn't hold us back from doing good work together in the future. You don't have to have the full picture yet, but I do think you have to demonstrate curiosity, compassion, intent to work through this. And also, don't be afraid to share that it hurt you or that there was an emotional impact to it, because I think people do work with empathy very effectively. You can clarify the expectation, which is if you have feedback around things I could be doing better, I want to learn from you. I want to hear it from you. And you have to be able to open that dialogue in a way that the person isn't defensive or say, who told you that? Or I would never say that. You're trying to create an environment where the person doesn't get defensive. You can also, by the way, talk through it and then realize that it'll take many, many actions for you to feel comfortable with that person again, or maybe for them to feel comfortable with you. But I want you to open the space for the conversation. If this continues, you do have to loop in your manager and just say, hey, I heard this thing from someone And I just want to give you a heads up because I'm working through it with this person, but I don't want it to come back and create a whole situation for me or for them. Focus on the impact of your work and not the intent behind the behavior, and rebuild that trust over time. Now, here's the part that we all skip. You have a hard conversation and then you think it's over, but it's not. Trust is not built in a single moment. It's built in a lot of little, small, consistent steps. It's like you're recharging a battery. And after you address it, make sure you look for opportunities to demonstrate good faith. Acknowledge each other's work. Include them when you don't have to. Follow through on small things and give it time. You cannot force someone to trust you again or to change how they think about you or to change the way they talk about you, but you can make it easy for them to choose to. If they've said something about you that you just don't think is true, then I think it's really about that conversation around, I'm confused because this is not how I see things. If you see them that way, I want to understand it because perception is reality. And I want your advice on how I can move your opinion of me or move how you think people are thinking of me. I think that's really, unfortunately, it sucks to be the bigger person, but that's what it's really going to take if you don't want this to hold you back. The goal is, I think, to build something more honest than before the situation happened. And I think that's possible only if you're willing to create that open space for it to happen. Unlike every other relationship, you can't walk away from it. You still have to probably see this person on a regular basis. So keeping this shared resentment is not the right move. And I really think crossing the chasm around that silence and that tension, give it a try. If it doesn't work, then at least you can look yourself in the mirror and know that you did everything you possibly could. Have the conversation that most people avoid. Do it calmly, clearly, without accusation, focusing it on the impact on each other's work. And do the quiet work of rebuilding, whether it's consistency, generosity over time. Choose to stay in it because you're stuck with each other at work. So for each episode this season, in closing, I want to give you a clear takeaway, something you can try right away. And here's the power move, and it's a hard one. I'm calling it close the gap. Now, both questions today really kind of ask the same thing, which is, how do I close the gap between who I know I am and how I'm actually showing up? And the answer is the same for both. You have to do the thing that feels premature. Shape the thinking before it's polished. Share your approach before it's ready. Have the conversation before you feel comfortable. And so I want you to jump off and close that gap and cross that chasm, even though it's a fearful thing to do, it's hard to do. Before we close out, I want to build something into the season that I'm really proud of, which is a GRAVITAS shout out, because growth deserves to be seen, ownership deserves to be named, and the people doing the work deserve to be celebrated. So I just want to give a shout out to everyone who submitted a write-in question. I'm actually going to put on my LinkedIn a screenshot of all these questions we got, which I loved. And I know we couldn't answer all of them in 2 episodes, but I want you to know how much I appreciate that you all took the time to send in your write-in questions. And I think maybe we'll build in a practice each season of trying to answer as many of these questions as possible. And that's a wrap on our Work Problems series. I hope you enjoyed this episode of In Confidence. I hope you're leaving this space stronger than the way you entered it. Make sure you share this episode with someone you think needs to hear this today. Like, share, comment, all the things, because recognition creates a ripple effect in our lives and amplifies the work we're doing. Until next time, in the words of my 9-year-old self, I see you, I value you, and I believe in you. This is In Confidence.